Volkswagen, what the hell is going on here? Why can't you sort this out? Your customers simply deserve better than this.
Now, I hate to break it to you, if you're one of these owners that think you've got something really special because it's a Volkswagen, well, mechanically speaking, it's not special. It's got all the same problems as pretty much every other Volkswagen.
It's certainly nowhere near as enjoyable to drive as, say, a Mazda CX-3 or even a Suzuki Vitara Turbo, but overall, it does the job pretty well. You know what the world really didn't need? Yet another small crossover SUV thing. But that didn't stop Volkswagen making one, did it? Plus, with the German company marketing themselves as something of a premium, almost prestigious brand, the T-Cross apparently ticks the boxes for those wanting something a little bit special in this hugely popular category. The thing is though, as we see time and time again in our videos, Volkswagen often fail to live up to the hype, especially when it comes to build quality and reliability. But before you ever even consider buying one, we really need to find out what goes wrong with these. How about we start with the exterior, which being still a relatively new car should be nothing, right? Unfortunately, that's not the case. First of all, and this is potentially going to only impact the owners of higher trim spec cars, the power folding mirrors can have all sorts of issues. Sometimes the power function completely fails, so they don't fold. Other times, they just take forever to actually fold in or fold out. And then sometimes when they fold out, the actual mirror section itself has adjusted to a different angle and you've got to readjust it all over again. Next up are issues with the keyless entry. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Some owners have found that just a simple software update has solved this issue. Other owners haven't been quite as lucky. Plenty of owners have also complained about just shoddy build quality and really simple things like the Volkswagen badge on the front coming loose. Okay, this next one actually might not be a complaint or an issue. It's actually probably a compliment to the car, but the parking sensors can apparently detect spirits and ghosts. The owner will see that there's absolutely nothing in the road, but the parking sensors will just go off. Basically, the car proving that there is an afterlife. Now, we should mention a lot of these common complaints seem to be mainly prevalent on the earlier cars, although in saying that, even cars that are only a few months old, they've got their own fair share of complaints. Hopefully to mitigate this, Volkswagen have just updated the T-Cross, so let's hope that the newer models resolve these potential issues. Time will tell. Okay, next up, apparently the OEM wiper blades can wear prematurely, and when they do, they suddenly start shuddering all over the windscreen and not wiping well enough at all. And also, we swear this is not a setup for our sponsor, Wipertech. Plenty of owners have complained about this. Even on this car, these wiper blades wear prematurely, and the owner has complained about all sorts of issues with them. Now, fun fact, the T-Cross is basically a slightly chunkier lifted Volkswagen Polo, and it's only a little bit smaller than the Golf-based T-Roc. Also, here in Australia, it comes with just the single front-wheel drive powertrain called the 85 TSI. Although internationally, there are a few other power plants available. Now, pricing on the used market here in Australia currently ranges from about $20,000 to $45,000. However, depreciation really isn't great for these little Volkswagens, but we'll elaborate on that later in the video. But no matter what car you're looking at, if you're in the market for car finance, do yourself a favor and hit the Driver link down there. Driver is simply the easiest and fastest way to secure your car finance, and they'll compare different loan quotes from heaps of different lenders so you know you're going to get the best possible deal. Plus, we are going to be covering loads about the T-Cross in this video, but if you do need all the really specific details and basically the ultimate used T-Cross buyer's guide, head to ReDriven.com and check out the free cheat sheet. There's also a link down there. It's going to answer all of your questions. Now, even though Volkswagen have recently updated the T-Cross visually, honestly, you'd have to be an absolute anorak to tell the difference. But no matter if it's pre or post facelift, in terms of looks for me, yeah, it's fine. Don't get me wrong, with the R-line highlights, it certainly improves it, but I wish Volkswagen would take more of a risk in terms of design, because when they do, it always pays off. Like, look at the Arteon, that's proof right there. And look, I get with this category of car that they're trying to appeal to the largest market possible, and they clearly do nail the whole understated, sophisticated thing, but surely just taking a few more design risks, surely that wouldn't do any harm. Okay, now common complaints and issues inside. Unfortunately, there are quite a few. First of all, the infotainment systems. Owners have reported everything from connectivity issues like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto dropping out, Bluetooth dropping out, through to the screens turning themselves off or just getting really slow to operate. Other owners have complained that the speakers can get really crackly, almost like the drivers have broken. Now, apparently plenty of owners have found that if you just turn the car or the infotainment system off for about 5 minutes and then turn it back on again, a lot of these issues can be solved. Also, just giving the infotainment system a complete software update, that can help. Although, like the owners of this car, plenty of owners have done those things and the problems just keep coming back. And then there are the weird electronic gremlins like sounds just not working. We're talking the sound for indicators, the horn, even the parking sensors just not making their beeping sounds. Unless, of course, someone from the afterlife is walking past the car, then they go off like crazy. And also, just like the exterior, plenty of owners have complained about shoddy build quality. Things like the gear knob selector coming loose, rattles forming in the car like only months after buying it, and just the fit and finish not being up to scratch. And then we have the water ingress issues, and these are a nightmare. Plenty of owners have complained that both the passenger and the driver's footwell can become damp to the point that water can come seeping through the carpet. Now, apparently the issue here is that the seal around the windscreen hasn't been fitted properly from the factory, so water can get in there. Also, there's a joint in the bulkhead where it can also leak. But the problem is, plenty of owners have had the car go back to Volkswagen to fix these issues, but the issue still comes back. Now, this unfortunately can lead to condensation issues. There are so many reports of T-Crosses fogging up. Also, the car can end up smelling like wet dog. Plus, down the track, you can expect a whole bunch of electrical gremlins because moisture and electricity don't mix. Now, according to many owners, unfortunately, plenty of Volkswagen dealerships won't admit that this has become a common problem and quite often will blame you for either having wet shoes or spilling water inside the car. In fact, something that we came across time and time again was just how bad Volkswagen's after sales and customer service is in general, not just the dealerships, but Volkswagen themselves. Owners have stated that the customer service has become so bad, they swear they're never going to buy another Volkswagen ever again. Oh, I completely forgot to mention this whole moisture and water leaking into the car issue. Water can leak into the boot as well. Now, it seems pretty much every time we feature a Volkswagen on ReDriven, there are some reports of water leaking into the car. Sometimes the drainage channels can get blocked really easily, or the drainage tubes become dislodged and water ends up inside the car. Volkswagen, what the hell is going on here? Why can't you sort this out? Your customers simply deserve better than this. Actually, just on the owners, a massive thank you to all of the owners groups and forum members that helped us research this video, and especially a massive thank you to Alex, and specifically his mum, for lending us the T-Cross. It's time for another Wipertech challenge. Will it wipe? And today's victim, butter chicken. Now, before we see how these wipe, remember Wipertech wiper blades are super easy to order online. They're an absolute breeze to fit. And if you order them via the link, you're going to get 15% off and free express shipping. Let's see how they go. Oh, it smells great. There's chicken on the roof. Wow. It's done a good job. So if Wipertech blades can handle that, surely they can handle anything that you're going to throw at them. Get yourself a set today. And as a thank you present, Alex and his mum are going to be going home with a free set of these bad boys. Now, another thing that not only Alex and his mum have complained about, but plenty of other owners have complained about, is just the materials used for the interior. See, it's interesting. In photos and on camera, the interior, and even when you're just looking at it, the interior looks relatively impressive. But when you start touching things, everything just feels like a bit cheap and nasty. And while the overall design and all of the ergonomics, they're totally fine, and the 2024 update does improve everything in here, even the update, it doesn't feel anywhere near as premium as the interior of a Mazda CX-3. Also, when it comes to tech and features, look, these come with a pretty good range of stuff, and there are some really good optional extras that the original owner may have ticked. But when it comes to how much stuff you get for how much you spend, plenty of other cars will give you better bang for your buck. Kia Stonic, Hyundai Venue, and Ford Puma all have more features for what you spend. In fact, the base model Ford Puma comes with more standard equipment than the very top spec T-Cross. But again, if you want to check out all of the specific details of the T-Cross and read through the list of all the common issues, go to redriven.com, check out that cheat sheet. Now, as far as actually using the tech and features in here, it's all pretty good, honestly. I love that the climate control actually has buttons and it's not just a touch screen. Yes, the infotainment system is a touch screen. It's nice that you can lean your hand on this little ledge to aim at things, but like all bloody touch screens, it's going to get filthy in no time. Make sure you have a microfiber cloth with you at all times because they just look disgusting after about 30 seconds. And as far as practicality goes, glove box is actually honestly pretty small. You've got a spot perfectly designed for your phone there. That's why there's a wireless charging pad there. 2 cup holders just there, and yes, they will hold a small pretentious coffee like a ristretto. There's a little shelf here. I think that's purely to collect dust and crap because I don't know what else you're going to put there. There is a cubby bin here. What's the point of this? It is so small. I don't understand. Really good sized door bins. Nowhere for sunglasses up there, but you do get little hidey drawers under the driver's seat. Now in the back seat of the T-Cross, I'm exactly 15 centimeters taller than rapper and singer T-Pain. This is my driving position, and comfort-wise, super impressive. Loads of footroom, got about a knee room for such a small car. Windows are large, so it doesn't feel claustrophobic, even though this one has the dark headliner. Heaps of headroom. Seats are super comfortable. That part of the rear seat is really impressive. What's not so impressive is the lack of practicality and features back here. First of all, there's no center armrest, so no cup holders here. Volkswagen, what the hell is this hole for? Like, you sort of put a phone in diagonally, but can someone tell me what this is specifically for? Yes, you've got charging ports, that's good, but there's no air vents back here. You do have mat pockets, you've got door bins, and yes, you can get to them even if you do have legs. Spot to hang your groceries just there. I think that's about it. Actually, are there any cup holders back here? I don't think there are. Obviously, you've got door bins, but no. Now, I was about to show you how the boot can have different levels of floor, so you can have different amounts of space and you can kind of get rid of a load lip. But here's the problem. We've just been trying for the last few minutes to try to get this thing to go into its lower level, and it just won't. It will on one side, but not on the other side. Like, and then it gets stuck. So there, great. But when you want to drop it down, if you've got a couple of screaming kids in the back or you're in a hurry, what am I doing wrong? This is ridiculous. Bloody stupid thing. It doesn't. There's only one level. Look, it simply should have 2 levels because that's what it says on the website. But good news, the boot is actually quite a good size. Also, the seats fold pretty much flat. Also, these seats can slide forward and back to give you even more storage space. Fun fact, this boot size is more along the lines of a Golf size than it is a Polo size. And anyway, while we're talking about sensible stuff like practicality, let's talk safety features, and you know what? Really, really good. As well as all the usual stuff you'd expect, all models come with autonomous braking and lane departure assist, while the higher specs in the more recent models, they can come with adaptive cruise control and proactive occupant protection systems and so much more. However, there are some complaints when it comes to this safety equipment, and it's that the calibrations of them are just far too aggressive. Plenty of owners have complained that if you approach, say, a steep driveway, the autonomous emergency braking jumps on the anchors and it sends everything inside the car flying through the windscreen. Another common complaint about the driving experience surrounds the dual clutch transmission. Unfortunately, this is just a typical dual clutch thing. In traffic, it can feel a bit confused and apprehensive and doesn't select a gear as quickly as you'd like. Also, a few owners have complained about it doing some really weird stuff. Like, you've got it in D for drive in auto, but it will just shift itself into manual mode. You'll find yourself in second gear without the gearbox changing up or down gears. Also, and this alludes to maybe the poor build quality, plenty of owners have complained that these interiors can get super rattly even after just a few thousand kilometers. However, in this one, no. You can hear everything echoing because of all the hard plastics in here, but there are no rattles, no squeaks, no weird sounds at all. But aside from those negatives, honestly, it's pretty much all positives. Firstly, the vision out of it is excellent. Judging where the parameters of the car are, super, super easy. The ride quality and handling are okay, I guess. The problem here is because it's basically a jacked up Polo, it has to have firm suspension to stop it from pitching and rolling all over the place. And also on the suspension, it maybe doesn't feel, let's say, as premium as the Australian tuned suspension in the Hyundai and Kia counterparts. But the steering is light and the turning circle is pretty good, as you'd expect for a car in this class. And when it comes to the engine, I really like this thing. I know this might sound weird, but small capacity 3-cylinder turbo engines for me just have this really fun charm and character about them. You do have to work it hard on occasions, like if you're driving up a hill or trying to pull into traffic, but when you do rev it out and actually have a bit of fun with it, it's really enjoyable. Honestly, it makes things like overtaking at freeway speeds a little adventure. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly not fast in any way, but it's just enjoyable. Look, overall in terms of driving experience, it's certainly nowhere near as enjoyable to drive as, say, a Mazda CX-3 or even a Suzuki Vitara Turbo, and it also doesn't feel anywhere near as premium as a Ford Puma or maybe even a Hyundai or Kia, but overall, it does the job pretty well. However, how is it for mechanical reliability? Unfortunately, I can't answer that question because I'm not a qualified mechanic, but you know who is? It's Jim.
The reason I ragged on these at the start, it's frustrating because even though these are a relatively new car, they can have all the same problems that Volkswagen have been having for the last 10 or 15 years. We're talking coolant leaks. Look, the water pump at the back of the head, it is very fragile. The good thing here is it's not too difficult nor expensive to change, but you'll be doing it every 3 or 4 years. These things also are prone to oil consumption. That's a pretty common problem, so be prepared to top it up between services. And just on those services, do yourself a favour, service it every 10,000 kilometres if you want it to last. Although servicing won't really help things like the turbo actuator, which is a pretty common failure point as well. Another thing we see is they are very much prone to clogging up of the inlet, like a lot of modern day direct injection engines. It robs power and efficiency, so if you really want to keep those features, you're going to have to clean it every few years. Now these things have a timing belt, which a lot of modern engines have done away with. These have a timing belt. And you have to change it every 105,000 Ks or every 7 years. Now, typical Volkswagen petrol engine problems, sooner or later you are going to have problems with the engine breather system, that's the PCV. It's going to fail sooner or later and make the car run lean, and you're going to get lean air-fuel ratio codes, something to keep an eye on. And as time goes on too, we're probably going to see all the same problems we see in older Volkswagens where the engine bay plastics just become very brittle as they age, so sooner or later that's going to be an issue too. Now just on those brittle plastics as well, that's not just a Volkswagen thing really, that's all modern day European cars. Transmissions in these, they are a DSG or a dual clutch transmission. Their reliability has improved over the years, but they still have issues. They have issues with the mechatronics unit. That's the control module basically that does all the mechanical shifting. And they do have some clutch issues as well. Now, you can actually look after these with driver technique and some mechanical sympathy. Don't rush these things. People complain that they're clunky and lurchy. If you just select your gear, wait for it to engage, then ease on the power, that actually does preserve them, and they do last longer if you do that. Overall, mechanically speaking, the vast majority of these are still going to be okay, and a lot of them are quite new and still under warranty. The long-term issue here is once Volkswagens age and get out of warranty, that's when we start seeing the problems. So while it might be quite nice to drive and quite reliable whilst it's under warranty, is it a long-term car with long-term reliability prospects? Well, probably not.
But there's another issue we need to talk about here, and unfortunately it's depreciation. When brand new here in Australia, the 2020 base model T-Cross was retailing for around about $28,000. These days they're asking around about $20,000. But compare that to a 2020 base model Mazda CX-3, brand new, they were asking around about $25,000. Now they're asking around about $24,000. That means, like for like, a T-Cross has lost around about $2,000 a year in value, whereas the equivalent CX-3 more like $250 a year. And if history is anything to go by, Volkswagens, they tend to continue this depreciation, which is unfortunately just another reason why we wouldn't recommend buying one of these. Look, there's no denying that the T-Cross can be a wonderful little car, and there are thousands and thousands of owners out there that totally adore theirs, and they've never and probably will never have an issue. And if you buy the right one, that might be you too. But when you take into account the potential common issues, complaints surrounding Volkswagen's terrible customer service, the premium parts, labor and maintenance can charge, the depreciation, all combined with the fact that the T-Cross doesn't really offer anything overly special in this category, we just don't think it's worth the risk. About the only redeeming quality that the T-Cross has is the brand appeal that a Volkswagen badge often attracts, but come on, you're not the sort of person that's going to fall for all that marketing and image bullshit, are you? You're better than that. Instead, we'd be checking out one of these first. But if you weren't to buy this or this, what would you buy instead? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. Okay, next up, apparently the OEM wiper blades can...
These things actually have a timing belt.
Plenty of owners have complained that both the passenger